Here's my audience. Hi, my name is Carlene Lands, and this is my speech about why we should ban single-use styrofoam containers in the U.S. Styrofoam, which is technically referred to as expanded polystyrene, is a lightweight, airy type of plastic. It is made from small beads of polystyrene plastic that contain bubbles of air. Now, to expand it, they heat it up and it becomes what we know as the styrofoam containers, and that's why they call it expanded polystyrene. It is a really progressive and useful invention. It has so many uses. It's so lightweight that we use it for shipping because it's much cheaper and it cuts down on fuel costs. It works wonderfully for protecting electronics and produce because it has shock-resistant and antibacterial properties. And of course, it is most commonly used for our food containers as it's a wonderful insulator at keeping food warm. And all of these uses sound great, but at what cost do we enjoy all of these things? It costs the well-being of our environment, animals, and even our own health. Now, every day, approximately 1,369 tons of styrofoam is dumped into the U.S. landfills. Now, you can do the math. That much in a landfill every year, if we continue going on how we are right now, we'll drown in our own waste. And you might be thinking, well, what's wrong with trash in landfills? That's where trash belongs, right? The real problem lies in the amount it will take this styrofoam to leave our planet. The styrofoam will remain here and it will take almost 500 years to decompose. So none of us are even going to live as long as one styrofoam container that we use. Now, like I said, how much could we stack up going on like this? This is a real environmental hazard. Even worse than what could be happening with our landfills, they're littered around our cities. And because, like I said, they're very lightweight, they're easily blown into lakes and oceans and our water supply. This can contaminate water supplies and is also very dangerous for wild animals searching for food. They could, in the ocean, just like with any type of plastic, they could eat it, could do lots of bad things. And even more than that, just it being outside, getting heated up, it can release toxic chemicals. And those toxic chemicals in the landfills everywhere, it will go into the soil, and that can damage our crops and our oxygen, our trees, for years to come. And this is a threat to all life. But with all these problems, why is styrofoam still so popular? I mean, we already listed all of its super convenient uses already, but also it has very cheap production and is very inexpensive for buyers. However, it is also argued that the production of polystyrene is not an environmental threat, because only a little bit of water or energy is used in the production itself. But the damages to our environment definitely outweigh the small environmental cost of production. According to the EPA, it could be a possible human carcinogen for those who work in the factories where it's produced especially. The EPA has stated that short-term exposure can cause mucous membrane and eye irritation, and long-term exposure can affect your central nervous system. It can cause fatigue, headache, hearing loss, and even peripheral neuropathy. Along with just those exposures to that's factories. But you know that you could have toxic effects being exposed to all this styrofoam? If you've ever heated up even just a cup of noodles in styrofoam, you might have thought it was no big deal. But when you heat food in a styrofoam container, the styrofoam releases those toxic chemicals into your food as well. And think of how often you might have done that. This is a big danger to our health because I don't think it is as widely known as it should be. These dangers are not as publicly talked about, and it really should be because we see styrofoam everywhere, and it's a big part of our consumerist society because convenience is our top priority. But how convenient will it be in 20 years when we're really struggling with our environmental problems as we already are. Well, with all this, why don't we just recycle the containers then? They won't end up in landfills, they won't be littered, it'll all be fine, right? Just recycle it. The issue is you can't just simply put it in your recycling bin at the curb. It actually would cause more harm if you did, because they might just discard your entire recycling bin completely just because it has some styrofoam in it. They'll think that it's completely useless. So instead of that, there are other ways to recycle it that are not as popular. There are certain give-back programs at local grocery stores that some grocery stores will take some of their containers back that were like egg cartons and stuff. And there are also recycling facilities that will accept them. At certain recycling facilities, they are burned at a very high temperature in a plant, so it will not release carbon monoxide or any dangerous toxins because they're burned in a specific way at those plants. However, if you tried to do it yourself or just get rid of them by burning them, you can release a lot of bad gases into the air, which would be very damaging to our ozone layer and the environment. So it is very important that we become aware of some of these local styrofoam recycling facilities so that we can cut down on our waste. And even more progressive than that is banning it entirely. Banning these single-use containers that are always thrown away and just stacking up day by day. This banning of containers is actually gaining a lot of popularity around the world, and this can put an end to our excessive waste. According to CBS News, the first ever ban on polystyrene was in Berkeley, California in 1987. So we've been working on this for a long time, trying to get these environmental issues addressed. Now, in 2020, Maryland became the first state to ban styrofoam containers entirely. It took effect on October 1st this year. And there are also similar bills in progress in other states too, such as Vermont, Oregon, Colorado, Maine, and New Jersey. And there's also other countries that have banned styrofoam containers, such as France, Taiwan, Canada, and the Philippines. This is a wonderful step forward to being more environmentally conscious and making a change. And in conclusion, we have the power to make a difference as a city, as a state, and even as a nation through educating ourselves and others of these important environmental issues, creating and implementing better recycling programs so that hopefully styrofoam will be recycled worldwide and it'll be on a much larger scale, much more convenient than going to a specific place, and imposing bans on single-use polystyrene to ensure a better future for ourselves and generations to come. And now let me show you my audience again. And thank you very much.